While much can be said concerning the eighth major arcana or trump card, called the Force according to the Marseille Tarot, strength by the Rider-Waite, and lust in Crowley's Thoth deck, which took the place of justice or adjustment to become the 11th major arcana, it feels appropriate here to present this card and its placement through the Book of Thoth in the context of how this archetype shows up in culture and to explore what possibilities can be extrapolated from it and its significance, especially in terms of synchronicity, which is obviously the intention of this analysis. Much can and has been said regarding Crowley's rationale for exchanging adjustment's placement with lust, as should be seen to create a perfect astrological symmetry in the card's astrological correspondences. This is expounded upon in Crowley's Book of Thoth. But what seems to be less acknowledged is just what occurs when the hero's journey is laid out as a Vesica Piscis using all of the trumps, rather than forming the shape with simply the 12 that have astrological associations. Including the planetary and elemental correspondences to this should be the inevitable reaction to the aspiring student in the occult. This is where Crowley's arrangement becomes especially enlightening and might offer some extra insight into why his contributions to tarot emphasize his identification with the beast, which is represented prominently in this card. When the Vesica is arranged, it becomes clear that Atu Zero, the Fool, lies at one end of the Vesica, while Lust at its opposite, thus standing as a bridge between the upper and lower path that circles back to its tail in the style of the Ouroboros. This couldn't be more appropriate considering that this card is ruled by Leo, which lies at the center of the zodiac and happens to be ruled by the sun. In this light, it becomes understandable why it stands as the cornerstone to these arcana, and thus exudes the dynamics of the magic Babylonian 666 sun square, the foundation said to govern the structure of the Tower of Babel. The Golden Dawn, of which Crowley was a member for some time, holds that the sun corresponds to the Sphirot Tiferet, or beauty as it is often translated. This Sphirot lies at the center of the Tree of Life, thus emphasizing Leo, which lies at the center of the zodiac. The Tree of Life is believed by occultists to be the closest representation of the undernetting of our perceptual reality matrix, unconsciously or otherwise. This correspondence of the sun to Tiferet is clearly shown to be of utmost importance to these occultists. It is, after all, represented as their signature symbol, while the name, Golden Dawn itself, obviously infers this as well. In the Thoth arrangement of the hero's journey, Lust is preceded by the 10th arcana, titled Fortune, which corresponds to the planet Jupiter. It is followed by the Hanged Man. Interestingly, the simian ape of Fortune, representative of Thomas Guna to the Vedanta Samkhya system, grips the Rota wheel of karmic evolution, while the representative of Rajas Guna is shown to be our dog god guide to the underworld, Anubis or Sirius, as is understood. Here he holds and points an Egyptian Ankh downward. The Ankh suggests a subtle or energy body and is thus completely symbolically compatible with the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. In this arrangement, the Hanged Man hangs directly below Fortune, and pictures an archetypal figure hanging from this Ankh, his foot held in place by a serpent, while another serpent lays coiled in the abyss below him. The Hebrew letter connected to Lust is Tet, which literally means serpent as a glyph, and can clearly be seen to itself closely resemble a serpent. The use of the term lust in relation to this card is distinguished by Crowley to be more of the ecstasy that comes from spiritual revelation, rather than a base-level sexuality, though in this usage there is undoubtedly a recognition of Kundalini, especially when the serpents at the top of this card are contemplated as they reach for the chalice held up by the scarlet harlot of Babylon, who rides atop the beast of the apocalypse, the chalice being the sacred sacral center at the base of the spine and resonating the Vesica itself. While the Wheel of Fortune suggests a turning, and less suggests an ecstatic revelation, apocalypse meaning an unveiling or a revealing, the Hangman suggests a complete reversal of perception. All of these factors seem to emphasize this arrangement, which allows the 22 arcana to reflect itself back to itself by means of the serpent power, or Kundalini as it is called in the system of Tantric Yoga. It doesn't appear to me as a mere coincidence that the Sun card resides below the Empress, while the Moon resides below the Emperor, the will and receptivity, and the receptivity in the will. The Fool corresponds to the Hebrew letter Aleph, which literally means ox, but also means the life breath. The card switched with lust in Crowley's arrangement, called by him adjustment, corresponds to the Hebrew letter lamed, which means ox goad as a glyph, the tool used to steer the ox to till the field. Along with Tet and Samek, lamed is one of the three serpent letters, and is likened to an erect serpent as can be observed. The symbolism is direct. The life force must guide the breath, and by extension, one's actions. Or to express the principle more poetically, the mediator between the mind and the hands must be the heart, as it is said in the Kabbalistic classic silent film, Metropolis. This reveals the hidden meaning of the verse from Genesis, where it is said that man must till the soil before he can partake again of the tree of life. The shape of Crowley's arrangement of the arcana reveals an eye, a vagina, or a mouth, simply being that it is a vesica piscis. The Hebrew letter Ein, spelled out, means eye, while the letter itself is represented as an eye as a glyph as well. The corresponding card to this letter is the devil. It pictures the goat of Capricorn standing before a phallus surrounded by rings. This phallus very much resonates the Devil's Tower in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, whose backside is referred to in the film as the dark side of the moon, and is the point of alien contact. Capricorn is a sign of initiation, and this has been represented in the story of Hercules by his ascent to the top of the mountain, just like the mountain goat who does not stick with the herd but makes his own way and reaches the mountain's peak. The goat stands behind the Egyptian winged sun disk and his suggestive twin serpents. It should be understood that Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and in the traditional system of Kabbalah, the Malkut, which represents the tip of the genitals, corresponded to the planet Saturn, though the Europeans equated it with Earth. Interestingly, Crowley expressed and emphasized the nature of Earth and Saturn being completely resonant, or rather one and the same energetically, in his commentary on the universe in the Book of Thoth. That being said, one should be able to appreciate that Malkut represents the Shekinah, or the divine feminine receptive principle, seen here as the Malkut at the base of the tree and thus the spine, in a state of exile, while Tiferet, or beauty, is representative of Ze'er, or her masculine equivalent, at the heart of the tree, where we have a repression and sublimation underlying our perception of the universe symbolically yet poignantly expressed. In this Kabbalistic explanation of the divided tree, the Shekinah is replaced by a cunning handmaiden who is essentially a metaphysical golem. The story played out in Metropolis is undoubtedly inspired by this. Christians reintroduce these archetypes as the beast and the scarlet harlot, who are referred to here in the lust card. In the older traditional system, Tiferet corresponded to Mars, thus strengthening this esoteric dynamic. This arrangement can be seen as the ultimate universal singular eye that oversees the entirety of human experience. To quote Ramach's Garden of Pomegranates, not to be confused with Israel Regardie's book, which goes by the same title, but rather the original 16th century work, quote, "Certainly the eyes have one eye, which is higher than the eyes of the world. It does not close, and it is the Keter. In the Idra, it is called the regulator of all, and it emanates mercy through all the eyes of the lower worlds. In the Tekonim, it is taken to be the Malkut, in that she combines all the colors that have been mentioned. She is called Ein, eye, the water that does not cease." Close quote. The hangman, which resides at the corner of this arrangement, corresponds to the Hebrew letter Mem, which means water. Indeed, it appears to myself that these are the tears of Isis. Another fascinating result of arranging the cards in this way is that all the cards with astrological associations, which once again are all in order, happen to have cards with astrological associations appearing in their reflection, with only one exception. For example, the first sign, Aries, corresponds to the Emperor, while the moon, which is here seen below this card, corresponds to the last sign of the zodiac, Pisces. The exception in this alignment, however, is overtly yet esoterically significant, being that the lovers, which correspond to the dualistic twins of Gemini, stand in relation to the tower, which is Mars. The tower, then, happens to picture an eye overseeing the tower's collapse. The tower also corresponds to the Hebrew letter Pe, which means mouth, and is without question formed in the appearance of a mouth. Once again, the meaning should be clear when it is considered what the Tower of Babel is made to represent. being that when it collapses, no one is able to understand each other's speech. By extension, this eye arrangement can then be recognized as a collapsing tower, always aiming at the ultimate perfection of the tree of life, but never able to reach it in the world of form. Solomon's temple, like the Tower of Babel or any mandala, is destined to repeatedly collapse. Solomon is warned, like his father David, who understood and withheld his desire to erect it, that the temple is not to be built by human hands, for such a structure will never endure like the one we are constructing in the inner world. The two towers of the moon card should now be understood as the tower being viewed through the lens of Gemini, i.e. the separated lovers Ze'er and the Shekinah, or Tiferet and Malkut, or their qliphothic counter-archetypes, the beast and the whore of Babylon, the dark side of La Force. The lust card is the cornerstone of this tower. The Scarlet Woman, then, is the handmaiden united with the beast as Tiferet, replacing the stone that the builders rejected, which is the pure Shekinah. It is the handmaiden and the beast that maintain the force that holds the tree in place as a split Adam, thus communicating the significance of its current placement. Malkut is traditionally translated as empire. She is the foundation of all that we build. Now King Kong climbing the phallus of the Empire State Building and dying in climax at its tip with its opposite energy polarity should take on an added significance. It wasn't the airplanes, the mental planes, that killed the beast, but beauty, Tiferet. While Malkut is traditionally associated with Saturn, Yesod, the sphere above her, is associated with Jupiter. So those who know their mythology can recognize and appreciate the replication of the exile as well as classic king-kill motif in this dynamic. While the moon has been attributed to Yesod by the European occultists, it was earlier attributed to Chesed on the right of the tree, while the sun was attributed to Gevurah on the left. The left-hand path is indeed the path of the sun. Is it any accident that in the film Pi, Max's teacher is named Saul, and the geometrical value of Gevurah is 216? This line leads down another rabbit hole that will be left for another time.